97% and 96%. These are the critic scores for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, with the audience scores mirroring pretty closely at 94 and 95. But if you go to the Little Mermaid live-action remake, it's a 67% in Rotten Tomatoes, comparison to the original, which was at 92%. So, what made this massive drop-off? Especially considering when you compare Spider-Verse to other Spider-Mans, like let's say the Tobey Maguire one, where it had a 90% in Rotten Tomatoes. And I understand this is all in aggregate, and we're going to talk more about it later, but today we're going to be looking about race swapping in these films and why, for some films it seems to work, like in Spider-Man, and for others it doesn't seem to work as well, like in Little Mermaid, and some that are even worse, like in Queen Cleopatra. So, let's get something out of the way immediately. The Black Spider-Man character is his own character, and the Black Ariel character is not his own character. Now, what do I mean by that? Now let's look at the Miles Morales character that they made as the Black Spider-Man. He is not Peter Parker. He is a completely different entity. Even though he has the Spider-Man aesthetics, he does everything that Spider-Man does, he is a separate character from Peter Parker. And the movie made a clear distinction to make sure that you know that he's not just a Black Peter Parker. As in with the Little Mermaid, there is no clear distinction about the Black Little Mermaid being different than the original Little Mermaid, the red-headed, white-skinned Ariel from the 1989 film. They're basically morphed into the same person. And it's been used for companies to kind of justify making worse movies. Now the Little Mermaid live action that they made is actually passable. It's actually decent, it has good moments, it has characters that help pull it up, and they're very lucky for that. Because if it did not, they would have a lot of the same people still praising it. And that's what companies are counting on. For the Little Mermaid remake, I want to know honestly, if you think if Halle Bailey ended up doing a terrible job of the character, and the movie ended up like botching it, like Avatar: The Last Airbender live action remake quality botching, you think there's still gonna be a trove of people defending it? There definitely would have been. And you might think, oh no, you're crazy. But think about it now. The movie already itself is pretty mediocre. It's about like 20% lower than the original. And they're still applauding it as like amazing, breathtaking. In fact, if you look at the audience score, it's pretty high. Now, unfortunately, we cannot take any of the audience scores into consideration because a lot of these sites, they claim to have loads of people giving negative reviews, and they said it was like a coordinated attack to sink the film, so they removed a lot of reviews. Now, the problem with that, it may very well be true. It may be very well be true that these keyboard warriors are coming in to try and sink the Little Mermaid. But the fact is that companies can use that to their advantage to basically take away, let's just slip in a couple of the bad reviews. Oh, 10 of those were keyboard warriors, but let's just add 2 more that were just bad reviews that we don't want. So the audience score is unfortunately compromised. So whatever the audience score says, like 90 something, you just can't use it. Sorry, because there's no way to see how much they removed. Because usually the critic and audience score, I feel like for this type of film would not go so much different in this way. They're basically saying that the audience liked the new film more than the original, which I highly doubt. And I understand it's positive reviews, but still, I would think, considering that the new one is worse than the old one, audiences aren't dumb, they're usually smarter than the critics. So, we can't use a score, unfortunately. But now, why is it that this Miles Morales is Black Spider-Man? Why is it so much better? Why doesn't it have the same thing where it's just like, oh, it's just a race swap and just doing the same story? That's the thing, it's not the same story. And that's where it gets key. When you go through the Miles Morales character, you can see he shows you his culture, parts about himself without telling you. He doesn't have to tell you he's black. He doesn't have to tell you like whatever his cultural background is, his ethnicity. It's just shown through the movie. It's shown through the movie in a way that is just like, you can feel it. Like, I want to play you a clip from the Spider-Verse movie, and I want you to tell me what you think. Tell me all you get from just this short clip of how Miles Morales' character is.
Ooh. Ooh. bro? Hey, I'm just walking by. How you doing?
No te olvides de dónde vienes.
Seguro que sí. Yo, Miles, you feel that earthquake last night? Oh, what you talking about? I slept like a baby last night.
Come on. Seriously, Dad.
Look at how much information is given in that scene. Literally just from even clothing. You can see based on the shoes that is worn, based on how he interacts with people. He doesn't have to hold a sign of it that says, "Yo, I'm a black Spider-Man." No. Like, it literally is genuine. It's incorporated into the story instead of race swap. It's a new character and it feels unique and it enhances minority voices. Now, as a fellow minority, just to make a clarification, I feel like it's great when they have unique stories that convey minority characters instead of switching the races of an already white character. Let's go to another movie that did not do even close to as well as Little Mermaid, Queen Cleopatra. Now, Queen Cleopatra switched the race of an Egyptian to a black woman. And the problem with this is not so much the race of the character, but it's just that it's used as a way to make a lazy movie. They think that if they switch the race, then they're gonna have a flock of fans that will defend it no matter what. And Little Mermaid had that. But unfortunately, this movie was so bad, the documentary was so bad, that you just couldn't defend it. It was just like poor rating, like beyond guttural. It's like insane. But the same thing happened with Peter Pan and Wendy, the remake. They made Tinkerbell black, they made Lost Boys girls.
But you're not all boys. So?
And it's like, instead of wasting time doing pointless race and gender swaps, why didn't you just make the movie better? Live actions historically have a bad rap of being bad. So why are you just giving minorities white characters? Are we not special enough to get our own characters? Like, they say it's diversity inclusion, but is diversity inclusion really just replacing a white character and being like, oh my gosh, she's black now, or Hispanic, or whatever? Like, when they made Tiana for Princess of the Frog, it was new, unique. It was something that didn't really have, like, Princess and the Frog was a book. The character wasn't really, like, labeled anything. It was just a princess. It was kind of vague enough where anyone could have really filled the shoes. And they didn't just make it a copy. They took black culture, or New Orleans specifically, and put it in the Princess and the Frog story to make it into a new character. So sure, maybe the original, it's possible the original person who wrote the Princess and the Frog could have thought it was white or something based on the area. What they did is they meshed it with New Orleans and made an entire new story and made it breathe life into the movie and make it pretty good. Now, here's one that I know is going to be talked about, and I have to address it because it is definitely an interesting case, and that's Queen Charlotte. Now, Queen Charlotte is doing very well for a race swap movie that seems to be just using the race swap. Now, it can be broken down simply in a couple of things. First, it is a Bridgerton series spin-off, and Bridgerton already has the notability of being a strong series. So, it gets put into that, first of all. So it already stands stronger than something like a Queen Cleopatra movie would be. So when you already have it in a pedestal, you have to push down the pedestal. And here's the thing that I feel like a lot of people might not understand when people complain about race swapping. In reality, it doesn't really matter that much that Ariel or like these other characters were switched races. Like, if the actors is good, Halle Bailey played Ariel pretty well. And that's not the issue. And in Queen Charlotte, it was the same. The issue is that usually that's an excuse to make the writing weaker because they're like, oh, you know, we changed the races, so we're gonna have people watching no matter what. And the thing is, think about, let's say, I don't even know, Cinderella's had like a lot of remakes. Every time they do a remake, what changes? Usually a little bit of the story changes. Maybe it's more modern, maybe it has this, maybe it's a spoof. But they're making these like white to black character switches, and it's mostly white to black. This is why I keep saying black and not just minorities in general, because I'm pretty sure Hollywood has a thing where it's like they want to check the boxes, so Hispanic, Asian, or like other lighter skinned minorities aren't enough of a box to check to do the switch, but I'm not saying it always is. So for the simplicity of this, we're gonna say black. They're using it as just a way to make another remake without having to think. Because if you have enough strength, you can overcome something as stupid as a race swap. Like, Queen Charlotte, they even tried to claim historically that Queen Charlotte might have been mixed. But like, those were like one painting they found out of like 10, and the rest of them showed her like white because it's England. Yes, it's physically possible. But the thing is, why are you even talking about this? It's so stupid. Like, the fact that we're getting to a point in movies where we have to debate, like, oh, is it okay to use a white character for a white character? Or is it, like, are you really gonna pick a movie about Martin Luther King Jr. and make him white? Are you really gonna make a movie about Hitler and make him black? Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, if it's those movies, they're like, oh, of course not. But like, when you do the other ones, it seems like, oh, what's the big deal? If Hitler was black, please tell me how that would go. If Martin Luther King Jr. was white, or Harriet Tubman, or I don't know, Rosa Parks was white, how would that go? Like, Elon Musk, what if Elon Musk was black? That actually could be funny. But you know what I mean. You get the point I'm trying to make, jokes aside. The last point I want to cover is that I may say, oh, these movies are failing because of racism. So let's go to a recently released movie, The Blackening. The Blackening was a horror comedy that was released. It ended up being pretty well, but I'm pretty sure it is not gonna make its money back because it has been poorly advertised. They might think, oh, it's an all-black cast, you know, they're going against the black people in this movie, and that's why they're not watching it. But then you have to go and look at other movies like Black Panther and be like, why did that do very well in comparison to this one? And they got similar scores, Black Panther and The Blackening, Blackening being slightly less. But why is Black Panther very high up? And The Blackening, which was pretty decently good for a horror comedy being one of the weakest genres, like overrun by Evil Dead. Evil Dead owns that genre right now. But it was pretty strong. I've seen a lot worse movies, and I'm pretty sure that they're gonna do better. But there's so many nuances that you can't even, I'm not even gonna be able to get to this in this video. I feel like the main point that I'm trying to make is that race matters less than you think in these movies. Unless it's in regard to the culture of the character. When The Little Mermaid is Norwegian, supposed to be a Norwegian folktale. So when you make her black, it's kind of taking away a little bit of the Norwegian culture, and I know they don't really touch on it that much, but I literally think if I remember correctly, in the new Little Mermaid, Triton has like a daughter of every race. How the hell did that happen? And then like Eric's mom is like black, but like he's adopted to make it like work. At least they try to explain it, but it's like, why are you jumping through these hoops? Like, it's okay if Eric's parents were all white. He's white. You don't have to make it, oh, a black that adopted a white son. It's like, what's the point of this? You're just jumping through hoops for no reason. It doesn't change the story. And I understand, we want representation, but like, there's so many better ways to do it, and that's what I'm gonna leave it at. I did make a video about corporate grifting in the movies, how they're just using race swaps to justify bad remakes, and to make easy things where it's just like, the only difference is gonna be, we're gonna make the white character black. And then we're just gonna put on whatever we want to. We're gonna splatter across the board, and whatever comes out, we're gonna come out. If you wanna go check that video out right here, click it here, and leave me in the comments what you think about the race swapping in general in any of the movies, honestly.